Right, here I am, NXL, back again with another NFXL podcast, and it's NFL Week 10 preview time, part one of this. Now, I always split this into three parts, and this part is just going to deal with the Thursday night game. So I'll have a bit of a look back at how Week 9 went for me as well. So let's get into it. We go into the second half of the season then. 22 teams have had their bye, and the remaining 10 will have their bye in the next 3 weeks. So who is going to start to hit top form in week 10, and who could be about to suffer a setback? Now, last week I called 8 out of 14 winners correctly, but consider myself unlucky to have more of my picks successful as they scored over 90 points more than their opponents, indicating they came out on the wrong end of the games that would have gone either way in week 10. So, I was just a bit unlucky, I consider myself. My season long percentage now goes to 64.8%. The worm's got to turn. I've got to start getting some of these going in my favour. But anyway, less of the whinging. What did I do in terms of fantasy last week? Well, I gave you a quarterback. I gave you Lamar Jackson, good return. Justin Herbert had another good game. Matt Stafford, obviously superb again. They were the obvious ones. But Joe Flacco and Sam Darnold might have been the less fashionable ones to have done well. Quarterback, again, some really obvious ones. Derek Henry, Christian McCaffrey, James Cook were the big games I thought would do well that last week, and they did. Whilst Kyron Williams and Kareem Hunt from the less renowned running backs and rookies Kyle Moningo and really pulled this one out. Florida A&M's finest Terrell Jennings, they did well as well. Um, and then at wide receiver, predictable as they were, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams had the good games I expected from them. I also highlighted Colston Loveland and Brock Bowers at tight end. So, Loveland was a good pick because that's his one big game, really. Um, and the Baltimore D, I said that was back on track and it proved to be so. So, on to week 10 now, and let's have a quick look at Thursday night football. Like I say, this is the only game we're going to do in this preview because in the past, we've had an international game early on Sunday, I've included that. But there's a bit of injury news about for that one, so I want to wait before I commit myself on it. So I'll just look at the Thursday night game, Las Vegas Raiders at Denver Broncos. The Raiders seek to allow their developing young stars Brock Bowers and Ashton Jonte to improve as the season's gone on, but they really have nothing else to achieve other than seeing how well they develop this season. The Broncos, however, have it all to play for: divisional titles, high seedings in the postseason, and if they started to have a little bit of a slump, then wild card spots. But they've got everything to play for. The Broncos are a good team in all areas, and will be fancied to get a seventh consecutive win here. The only knots on this team, for me, are inconsistent offensive play, notably from the quarterback, and how much being without Pat Sertan in their secondary weakens them in that area and how soon they can get him back. Now, the Raiders get to play pressure free football for the rest of the season, but still face a tough task here as they are ranked outside the top 20 in the league for pass and run offense and also for run defense, meaning the Broncos should be able to run the ball well here and reduce the exposure to that quarterback inconsistency that has shown itself during games this season. When Bo Nix is good, he's good, but he has too many spells of play where he falls short of what he is capable of right now. The Raiders have struggled against opposing wide receivers more than tight ends, so what passing success Nix has in this game could be likely to come via Cortland Sutton and Troy Franklin primarily. But it is J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey that are most likely to lead them to victory here, as far as I'm concerned, whilst the Raiders will look for another stellar performance from Brock Bowers if they are to shock the Broncos here. But the Broncos have been pretty tough on opposing tight ends, so it's going to be a tough game for Bowers too. And with Geno Smith adding another pick to his joint leading tally for the season, the Broncos look to be a good fantasy option in week 10. All of which says to me this should be a fairly routine Broncos win. But therein lies the rub. The Broncos don't do things routinely. They seem to wait till the fourth quarter and then, oh yeah, we'll do it now. It's a bit like watching one of those NBA teams that they go 10 points down at half time and then end up winning the game by 20 when they decide to turn up. The Broncos will get away with that to a certain extent, but that inconsistency and that approach needs to stop, and they need to show some really consistent performances in the second half of the season. But I'm still going to take them to win this one really quite easily. 27-17 is my prediction for tonight. So that's Thursday night out the way. Either Saturday evening or early Sunday morning UK time, I'll do part two of my preview, which will look at the Berlin game between the Falcons and the Colts. That's the one I'm waiting on team news and injury news. And I'll also have a look at the early Sunday slot in part two, and then part three will be the remainder of the games. So look forward to that coming up. See you soon.